Hello and happy Saturday. It's another World Watercolor Month weekend. The last big one here before we end the month. And I have some new sketchbooks in the house from Brush and Binding from my new friend Monique. She's a fan of mine and she messaged to ask if she could send me a watercolor sketchbook. And so she made me this one. And then she also included a mixed media sketchbook. So I'm going to show you both of these art pieces. And then at the end, you know we've got some laughs to have. So stay tuned for that, for the dad jokes. So let's start with the unboxing because they're so beautifully packed. You had to see them. She wraps them in these beautiful black paper envelope things. And they're just all nice and snug and taken care of. She gave me a choice of which books that she had on hand that I could use. And, you know, Nature and Outdoor Life seemed to be a reasonable front cover for it. And I just love old vintage books. So this was kind of a really nice thing. Then she has a couple little instruction things in here. So telling you to be careful with the book cover because it's old already. So be gentle with it if you order one. And then she includes here a little fly leaf from inside the book. And then there's all the watercolor paper. Now this is apparently from a company called Fingrespuro. And I'm going to guess that's Italian. And she said you can get the paper on Amazon. So I'll look that up and make sure I can put it in the list of supplies if you want to try some and see. So I'm going to set this one aside and open the other one. I did not ask for two books. I mean, I didn't even ask for one. She just offered, and I just said yes, gratefully. So she wrote me a little note about all she's learned from me, and pen and ink is her jam, and she wanted to send something that I could do mixed media in as well. And so it's a little thinner paper. It can just barely take some watercolor. We'll talk about that when I get to it. But this one, she picked out Macbeth for me. So I am also a Shakespeare lover. I have like the whole collection of Shakespeare in my living room in very old books, and I don't destroy them because I love the books. But this one, hey, look at that. I have another sketchbook. Very excited. And then there's this third packet that came in here, and it is the guts of both of those books. So I get to also read the books. The Macbeth is going to go up on my shelf along with all my other Shakespeare. And the other one, I'm just going to sit down and read and see what it has in it about nature that I might learn from. And if I find things, I will share with you. But it has some fun pictures in it. I thought some of them might be fun to try to paint, guess at what the colors might be, but maybe add them as sketches in the book. But I think this book is going to be all animals. Because I've been wanting to spend some time practicing drawing or painting animals. Haven't done that as much as a lot of other topics, so I think that might be what I will use it for. We'll see. So I've got both of these books ready to roll, and I'm going to start with the watercolor sketch. And again, this is on the Fingrespuro cold press paper. And just wanted to kind of get a feel for how it works. It feels a little bit like, I'm going to say, a Fabriano. Not that I'm going to compare Italian papers or anything, but the surface of it kind of has that feel to me. So if you've liked Fabriano, you might want to try some of this. But, I mean, it was great for sketchbook paper. I have a lot of sketchbooks that have super bad paper, and this is definitely better than what a lot of those have. But I started with some Verditer to start painting the peacock because the reference that I was working with had, a lot of brighter blue feathers shining in the light, but then all the dark parts are what I'm going to use the indigo for. So I dried that and then put in the stems of the crown, which I will finish for the big splash at the end of the painting, just using a really small brush to do these so I can get nice thin lines for those. And then I'll just kind of pop in and start working on all of the little detail parts. Indigo is a very dark color, almost appears as black. And then you can also get it to look a bit like a gray just by watering it down. So it's like a bluish, grayish color. And there's a lot of other mixes you can use with it as well. A lot of people will use this in combination with a brown of some kind to make a real true black. and that sort of thing. So if you have other colors you like to mix indigo with, then leave them in the comments. And if somebody is watching this trying to figure out what to do with their indigo, maybe you've got some tips for them as well. And I'm going to be playing with this blob in the next couple days. So before this video goes live, if I come up with like a swatch sheet of some nice color combinations, I'll post that over on my Substack, because I'm trying to get this video done early because we're having a heat wave. All of the heat that all of you have had for so long has finally arrived at my house. And right now, as I'm filming this, it is 84 degrees inside the house, inside the studio. So I'm trying to get this done and then go sit in the dark on my computer and get everything processed and that sort of thing. Anyway, I will not whine. I know you all have had it hotter. I just don't have air conditioning, so I whine about that on a fairly regular basis. Maybe someday I'll have a prince show up at the door with a giant in-home air conditioning system to just drop off and install in my home. Anyway, adding in the indigo on top of all this was super easy because it is such a dark color. And then sometimes in the neck, the whole nape is what they call it, I wanted to get some colors that were kind of in between the Verditer and the really dark indigo, so I just used more water with the indigo. And then once I kind of used some dry brush to get the indigo all the way down the neck, I started adding in a little more ultramarine too. So you see that little ultramarine puddle in the lower right corner of that one well. I just wanted to have a little bit stronger color, and the ultramarine has a little bit more of, I guess, a purplish feel to it. So it gave me just some interest in those feathers. But the prompt for World Watercolor Month is halfway. So I thought, since this one was halfway onto the page, then for one, I didn't have to paint an entire peacock. I had mentioned before when I did some peacock art that I didn't want to do a whole peacock because those feathers just like throw me for a loop. So this seemed like a good way to get a peacock in my sketchbook without having to do all of that. So I even used the indigo, mixing it in with a little bit of yellow ochre because I wanted a cream kind of color in the details in this part around the eye because it has just little texture in it. And so I mixed a little bit of it with the indigo, and then used a little bit more indigo to just drop into it so I get a little different mixture. And then I decided I was going to get looser with this. You might be waiting for that explosion that we saw in the beginning of the video. And I decided I wanted to test the paper out. Let's see how it handles doing something big and splashy. So these little things on the crown are fan-shaped. So I wanted a bunch of color at the base and then kind of the little fan feathers splooging out from that. And again, in the reference photo I was using, it was, the lighter blue that was kind of pointing out, and then at the base of it, it's going to be indigo. So I knew I was going to drop the indigo on top of it. Surprisingly, with this paper, the paint on the paper, like on the surface, the floaty parts that were wet when I painted them, didn't stay wet all that long. So I was going back to my puddle to get more. I was thinking I was going to just drag it out, because one of the notes in the little card says that this paper takes a long time to dry, so make sure you leave it out and open and not close it so that you don't end up smushing your painting. And so I was a little surprised that I was getting so much drying, but then again, I'm not used to painting in 84 degrees in the studio. So that was, I'm sure, a big part of it. So when I put the indigo in there, I was hoping I would get more blending, but since I had been working on the lighter blue for so long, I kind of didn't get much mixing. So I got crazy and I got out a toothbrush and I decided to just spray it. And I had in the toothbrush apparently some turquoise. So you'll see a little turquoise flowing out there. But I thought it would be kind of fun to make it look like he was almost shaking his head and all the little splashy stuff was going out in all directions. And see, for that 1 second, I put a tissue over top of the base of the crown, the little stems, so that I wouldn't get all the spray in there. because I just wanted it off to the back of his head. But then I decided I was going to really get splashy, and I got out my water bottle, and I wanted to just spray. I thought I was spraying over on the left-hand side only, but you can see inside the inner part of the crown, the little stems, there's color in there, and it just kept moving. So I ended up with that being a little bit more of a mess than I had hoped. And then I also used a brush, this Tintoretto brush that I've talked about before. It's a vegan brush. This one spatters really well because it is such a soft brush. So I figured I'd do a little extra spatter too and get some bigger spatter, not just the little tiny stuff from the toothbrush. And then once it was mostly dry, I added a little more of the indigo detail on top of it to put some at the base of those feathers, and then to draw over top of the stems again so they wouldn't be so mushed. But this did take a while to dry in total, so the paper kind of felt a little damp, even though the surface puddle dried quickly. So every paper that you use is going to have a little different way to work, so always test it out and kind of see how long things take to dry and in what phases of your painting. So now for the second one. This one, she said, don't use a lot of watercolor with it because it's mixed media paper and it might buckle. And it did do some buckling. But after I got this just kind of light wash of paint, because I wanted to use the same colors so it kind of feel like unified for the video. I know, silly that I am. But I wanted to have some color in it, not just the pen and ink. So I wanted to test it basically and see how much watercolor would survive here. And just use the same colors to throw on some strokes. And the strokes that I was making felt kind of like grasses. And I thought this might be helpful for those of you who do some nature journaling stuff. Like my students in my nature journaling class, I'll send this video out to them, make sure they see it. Because sometimes you get a cluster of like a cacophony of different weeds or plants or grasses or something. And I've had a lot of people who say, what do you do with that? How do you handle that? Especially when you're going to be doing some pen and ink and watercolor with it. And this is one way that's really easy and quick for a nature journaling page. Just splash on some color, whatever colors you want to use for your page, and then start using that as your guidelines. You can look at what your plants are, of course, to see if there's certain seed heads and you want to just emphasize one of them, make one blob that's going to be bigger like that seed head, and then just splash a bunch like this in the background. And then you can take your pen and chase all those lines around. What I mean by that is just follow those lines to see where you're going to put different stems. So I made sure that I crisscrossed some of the brush strokes. So I had some openings that were going to be inside the inner area of the grasses, and then just used a couple of different techniques. If I saw a shape that looked like it could be a bigger leaf, I made sure I drew around it so that that leaf could stay kind of together. Other times I just made long lines that continued off from it so it would have little hairy things hanging off the top like some grasses do. And, if there's little flower shapes, you can doodle around those. But for something like this, just keep it as loose and light as you can and hold your pen from way back on the pen. Don't cramp down on it, because then you'll start getting all kinds of little, too deliberate of lines that end up in your piece. And it's much easier if it's just all kind of loose and crazy. So I put my stickers on my sketchbooks, so I will never forget who made them. Thank you so much for these, Monique. They are beautiful. And if you want to get one for yourself, she's got another drop coming, I believe, on the 28th. So you can follow her and she'll get all of the information to you. You can sign up for her email list on her website or follow her on socials. But there's my 2 sketches for today. And you can go see more on Substack, because I'm going to have more sketches done in here, because I want to play, and I'm going to go sit in the dark and play after I get all this processed. So your joke of the day is, what do you call a peacock in a library? Surprisingly quiet, but still stunning. All right, you guys have a really great weekend. Stay cool, stay hydrated, and I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.